and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to dive into, we are going to look at CSS selectors. We are going to look at how we can select elements by class name, by ID, and other things. Okay, so to begin, I will start with my paragraph tag P, and let's say that I am the paragraph tag. Okay, let's give another one also. I am the second paragraph. Oh, my bad, my spellings. Okay, I am the second paragraph. If this one is second, then let's make this one first so that everything will be in order. Okay, let's also add last one and give it content of I am the third paragraph. Okay, I'm the third paragraph tag in that order. So let's refresh it in the browser and let's look at what is going on. Okay, let me make it big so that my viewers can enjoy. All right, so we have the I am the first, I am the second, and I am the what? I am the third. Okay, all right, so let's go back, let's shift to our CSS and start giving some styles of color is equal to red, and then the background is equals to black. Okay, let's view it in a browser. Refresh. Okay, so we have seen it on the screen that all the P tags are having the same background and then the same color as well. Okay, this is one of the problems in CSS when you are dealing with tag names. Okay, this is something that you should not be doing. In fact, you should rarely be using you should rarely be styling elements by their tag names. Okay, because when you do that, it will select elements that you don't want to give the style to, because maybe we want we want this one to have a different style. We don't want this one to have a color red, maybe color blue, but because we selected the P, it has also taken that style because it has also the P. Okay, let's see, all of them have P. Okay, we are looking at why this happened. All of them are P tag, and inside the star we are saying that we are selecting the paragraph. Okay, we are selecting a paragraph here, so the HTML P tags will all get selected. Okay, will all get selected. That is where class names and IDs are very, very important. When we were doing HTML attribute, I said this that you will not understand, because in HTML we don't use class for anything, but the real importance of class attributes comes here, because this is where we are going to use it. So we need to give our element classes. Okay, classes is like an identifier. Okay, it's like grouping the elements, giving them a particular names. Okay, so in this example, I want to give the style to the first one and the third one. Okay, I don't want to include the second one. So what I will do is I will have to give the first element a class name, and I have to also give this one a class name. The class name of this one, of the third one, and then the first one will be the same, so that CSS will get to identify the particular element that we want to apply the styling to. Okay, let me give it a class of para. Okay, short form of paragraph, and let me give this one to another class of para. All right, now we have given a class of para to the first element and also the last element. We have left the second element blank. We've not given it any class, so we will come here and we will select the class. What is the name of the class? The name of the class is para, so P-A-R-A. All right, we have selected the para. Let's go to the browser and refresh. You see, when we refresh, everything is gone. We have lost all the colors. Not even the first and the last are having. Do you know why this is happening? This is very simple. In CSS, okay, if you want to select a class, in the HTML file, what we use is dots. Okay, before every class name, we prefix class names with what? With a dot, a period. Okay, with a dot. So you see, the moment I introduce the dot, the color has changed to yellow, but before it was white. So I will introduce dot. Introducing dot means this is a class. So CSS will come into our HTML file and start looking at all the elements that has a class of the value para. Okay, of the value para. So let's view it in the browser. Refresh. Very good. Now we see that we have gotten our desired result. Okay, we see that we now have what we were looking for. The first and the last have gotten the star, and the middleman is now sitting all alone by himself. Okay, so now we also want to give a unique or different style to the middle man, this man here. Okay, but how about you pause the video and you try it yourself, so that after then we do it together and you look at your solution. If you had it correct, then thumbs up. Okay, so pause the video and try this one. When you are done, then you come back and then you continue. All right, thank you so much. If you were able to do it, that's very fine. If you couldn't do it too, that's very fine. Let's do it together. So starting, I'll give this one a class and call it para2. Okay, para2. One thing that I want to highlight here is very, very important. Okay, you want to make your paragraph, your class names descriptive. Let them be descriptive. Okay, let them be descriptive. Give a name that describes exactly what the element is for, or exactly what you are using that particular element for. All right, that's something small I want to send across. And also, you cannot include apostrophes and something like this. It's not recommended. Okay, don't do this in your classes. Don't do this. Okay, you can add numbers like this, but you don't have to be adding apostrophes. It's very, very bad. Don't make your code smells. Make sure that your code is always readable, and everything that you give, like for instance the class, you should make sure that it is descriptive. It describe what the element is being used for, or what you are using the element for. Yeah, what you are using the element for. Okay, so that's just small thing I want to send across. All right, so class has a para2. Talking of this one, let's go and give it a star. So because it's a class, we prefix it with what? A dot, and then para2. Okay, para2. We want to give this one a color of blue, and then also a background of yellow. After everything, we want to refresh it, the browser, to see the changes. Okay, so you see now we have seen the changes, indicating that it is really working. Okay, so you need to be very, very watchful when you are playing around with classes. Okay, because even you see this is para2. If I make a mistake or something happen and I add a character like 21, the CSS is not going to pick it, so my style will not work. So one quick thing, each time you are coding and your style is not working, first you need to make sure that the class name is the same as what is selected here, what the CSS selector has picked. And also, if it's a class, you need to make sure that you prefix it with what? With a dot. Okay, if you don't prefix this with a dot like this, I bet you it will not work. Okay, it will not work. So once it's a class, it must always be prefixed with a dot. All right, and so this is how to select a class from an HTML element. Okay, so I want you to also take a look at something different. Okay, if we are selecting an element based on the tag name, okay, if we say tag name, we mean the P is the tag name. So if we are selecting an element based on the tag name, then that one we don't need to prefix it with anything. Okay, we simply say P, and you will see that when we type the P is yellow here. Okay, because CSS already know paragraph, so that one you don't need to prefix it. It's not a class, it's an element that is known already. Okay, so that one you don't need to prefix it with anything. So let's try something small here. I want to introduce another element called the H1. Since H1 is heading, let me bring it on top. So H1, and let me say my first heading, into the browser and refreshing. Very good. Now I have my first heading sitting correctly there. So I want to give style to the H1. Okay, but you know that the H1 is a tag name. As for H1, it's not a class, it's a tag name. So we don't need to prefix it with anything. We simply have to call the H1 straightforward, because CSS already know H1. It knows H1 already. So H1, and then we say that okay, we want the color of this H1 to be brown. Let's go to the browser to see the changes. Now at first it was black, so we refresh and then we see the color change to brown. Okay, so this is working. So if you are selecting the element by the name of its tag, that one you don't need to use any prefix. You don't need to prefix it. It just have to be there. If H1, if P, if span. But if the element is a class, all classes must be prefixed with what? With a dot, a period. Okay, yes, that is it. And also there can be a situation where you want to give styles to your element based on their IDs. Okay, based on their IDs. So let me quickly create another element and call it I am the last paragraph tag. Okay, I am the first last paragraph tag, and this one I'll give it an ID of last paragraph. Let's make it last para. Okay, this is just an illustration, so I don't intend to make things seems confusing. So let's make it last para. When we get to JavaScript, we will start looking at camel casing, variable naming, and all that. That is how this. You see this one. The starting of the para is capital, and this one is small. It's a naming variable naming convention, and it's not really a big deal in CSS. So when we get to JavaScript, we will dive deeper. You understand it very much clearly. So if you want to style an element based on ID, what you do is you come to your HTML file. If it was to be class, it will be dot, right? If it was to be a tag name, it will be the name of the tag straightforward without any prefix. But if it's an ID, what we have to do is we need to prefix it with a hash. You see the sign? Yes, this means it's an ID. All right, so the name we gave was last para, so LAST, last, and then PARA, last para. And I want to give the last paragraph color of aqua, AQUA, aqua. So we go to the browser, we refresh, and then we see the last guy appearing here with the color aqua. with the color aqua. Okay, so that's how we select elements by an ID. I said this in the HTML element, in our HTML lecture. Let me say this one also here. Every element in the page should have a particular ID, a unique ID. It is not compulsory to give each of them an ID, but if in case you are giving an ID to your element, you need to make sure that two elements will not share the same ID. IDs are intended to be unique. Every element is supposed to have its own specific ID. Okay, IDs are not to be duplicated. Okay, as for classes, we can duplicate class. We can give this class here. You see, this one has this class, and this one also has the class here. Okay, if we can also create another element and give it the same class, and the style that we have defined here will be applied to that new created element as well. But as for ID, you don't want to share it with any other element. They are sort of like driver's license. IDs are like the student ID or the ID card for voting. Okay, so you don't need to be sharing them. Each element should have its own ID. All right. Okay, so this is all about the selectors, and of course we have so many selectors in HTML. HTML CSS. We have so many selectors, but of course I will end the lectures here because the other ones are advanced and I will bring them later on. But for now, this is what I want us to focus. Okay, when we build the understanding and when we get everything from this lecture, when we get it here, then we can move on to wherever we want to. Okay, I want to remind you that it's all about the basics. So if you get the basics, you can build anything that you want to build by yourself. All right, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for spending the hour with me. I want you to take this moment to subscribe to the channel. If you have not subscribed, try as much as possible and give us your comment, like the video, share it for others also so that they can also benefit. I want you to smash the subscribe button so that every day we can keep on bringing content that are like this. Thank you and see you in the next video.